everybody, welcome to my channel. My name's Luisa and this is Boo Boo. Say hello, Boo Boo. He's a little bit camera shy. He's probably wondering why mommy is holding him and putting him on display, but as you can see, he's such a pretty cat. He's very, very good, very well mannered, except for when he gets on my beads, which I tolerate because, he's kind of spoiled and so I don't mind. But, he's the one that I turn to during really difficult times because he brings me so much joy. And I just love Boo Boo. He's just my best friend. But anyway, guys, I have something very special to show you today. I'm very excited because I'm going to show you how to make a lariat necklace. A few days ago, I published a video showing you some finished pieces that I made using the mystery design kit from the Softflex company. The name of the kit was called Painted Sunflowers, and I made 3 necklaces using that kit. So today I'm going to show you how to make one of those necklaces. It was the lariat necklace. Don't be too concerned if you don't have those beads because you can certainly do the same design using other beads. Alright, so let's go ahead and turn the camera around and we'll get started. All right, everybody, I wanted to show you the necklace before we get started because, it's helpful to see the finished product and to see what you're going to be creating before you actually start. And I wanted to point out to you, something that's very important about a lariat necklace. This ring is really large. It's 25 millimeters in diameter, and so you want to make sure that whatever dangles you put on here, that they're heavy enough so that they stay down, so that they work with gravity. If you don't do that, if you don't put enough weight down here, then it may slip out of the ring, and we don't want that. So the other choice that you have, if you don't want to put a lot of dangles, you could use a smaller ring. This one's about 18 millimeters, and I actually like this one because it has a little loop already on it, so you can, you don't have to use a jump ring, you can just hook it up. But you can find these on the internet. Just look for large rings for jewelry making. But anyway, I like this one because I don't necessarily want the loop. I want it to have some freedom of movement. So the jump ring allows that to move around a little bit. But I will tell you that this does shift a little bit as you wear it. So the beads here, these components actually act as stoppers. So when I wear this one, and this is one of the reasons I like this design, it's not symmetrical. Okay, so I could wear it like this, but I choose not to because I like the idea of it being a little bit asymmetrical. So when I wear mine, I usually wear it like this. And by the way, that's the reason I put this charm here as well. I put the charm there so that it adds a little bit more weight to the ring. The more weight you have at the bottom of a necklace, the better it'll sit on your chest and you won't be fighting with it constantly. Okay, so another thing I wanted to point out, I attach these using simple rings, simple loops. Simple loops. I did not use wrap loops, and the reason is that for me to do a wrap loop, I would have to use a thinner gauge of wire, which is lighter weight. And I didn't want to use lightweight wire. I wanted to use heavy gauge wire because, like I said, the more weight you have at the bottom of this necklace, the better it'll sit on your chest. So I did simple loops. I just made sure that the loops are, closed very well. And as long as you do that, it's pretty safe. And, mine, I think mine are about 20 gauge, 20 or I don't think it's 22. I think it's 20 gauge wire. But yeah, that's another reason why I like to use the heavier gauge wire for these components so that it adds a little bit more weight. Now this necklace is actually 20.5 inches long from the loop to the beginning of the tassel, which is the tassel begins at the end of this component here. So the tassel itself is about 3.5 inches long, and then from the tassel up, we're looking at 20.5 inches. But you know, when I put this on, it ends up being 18 inches, between 16 and 18, depending on how I wear it. Okay, so if I wear it, say for instance, up higher like this with a longer drop, that's about 16 inches. If I wear it a little bit further down, like this for instance, then we're looking at maybe an 18-inch necklace. This part is 18 inches. So you have to figure out, first of all, before you start, you have to figure out how long you want the lariat to be and how long you want to wear it. It's totally personal preference. If you prefer a lariat that's symmetrical, what I would recommend that you do is to not put a piece of chain there and just go ahead and begin with a component. So then when you wear it, your chances of it sitting on your chest symmetrically are greater than if you don't do that. Like I said, I like mine asymmetrical, so I don't mind this design. But that's important because before you start cutting your pieces of chain, you need to figure out how long the lariat needs to be. And for me, like I said, it's 20 inches long from the top of the tassel portion to the loop is 20 inches. All right, so for my lariat, I had to cut 8 pieces of chain. Each one is 1.5 inches long. And that gave me the 20 inch, it's actually 20.5 inch length that I wanted. Okay, so 8 pieces of chain, and then of course the components add another inch to the total. So maybe a little bit more than an inch. Yeah, actually they're about an inch. So we're going to build 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 components. Each one is an inch, so that's about 8 inches, and then 8 pieces of chain. Each one is 1.5. Right, so that's the math. So like I said, you need to decide for yourself how long you want the lariat to be before you start cutting the chain, and then to be able to determine how many of these components you're going to make. And of course, you'll be making some extra components for the tassels, so keep that in mind as well. And they don't have to be the same, they can be different. I chose to do a couple of them the same as the rest of the necklace, but you certainly can do, you know, different ones. Like here's a different one. This one I chose to do in the blue beads. But yeah, be creative. You don't have to, you know, I do recommend that you have at least one down here that's similar, so that there's some connection between the tassel and the necklace itself. You don't want it to be completely different, although you could. There aren't any rules, but I like to do mine like this. So, you know, I could have very easily just made one of these the same and then the other two different. But it's totally up to you. You know, just go ahead and be creative and do what makes you happy. So I forgot to mention that for the actual tassel itself, you'll need another extra piece of chain, and it's the same length as the other pieces of chain, so that makes it easy. All right, so I cut 8 pieces of chain for the necklace and then an additional one for the tassel itself, because that's how I hung these components. So I cut myself a total of 9 pieces of chain. Okay, we're going to get started. This is probably one of the easiest tutorials I've made so far. But basically we're going to be using the beads from the Softflex Company Painted Sunflowers kit. And like I mentioned before, you can use any beads that are similar. This one here is not from that mix. This is actually a Chinese crystal rondelle, and it's about 10 by 8 in size. So if you can find, you know, something similar, it doesn't have to be a rondelle, it can be a round bead as well, just something that's a little bit larger than the average bead. And of course we've got the beautiful 6mm lapis / malachite beads that came with the mystery design kit from Softflex, and then these are from the sunflower mix that was included in that kit. And then we also got a beautiful strand of these transparent yellow. They look like they're 8mm in size, seed beads, but they could be a little bit larger. They're not quite 6. You know, if I were to guess, maybe it's more like a like a 7mm size of seed bead. But anyway, I will leave a detailed list of all the things that you're going to be needing in the description down below. But we're going to go ahead and get started in building the components. And like I said, I like to use something that's relatively strong and heavy. Now this is a head pin. I do this a lot. I use head pins because I find it's more economical, and I just take the head off. And of course I have my tools here. I've got my flat nose pliers, I've got my cutters. I also have these bail making pliers by Beadalon. And I like using these because the barrels are, you know, straight, they're not tapered. So that makes it easier to make uniform loops. And I've used different methods, you know, but I thought I would try this with you guys today to show, give you some other options. You can use your one-step looper if you want to, or a regular round nose pliers. But I thought I would use these today just to show you how easy it is. After you form your little kink like I did, then you just put the end of the wire within the jaws and then simply turn until that loop touches the rest of the pin. And I like using these because they come out really, really round, okay, and very uniform. So these are a great idea, okay. If you struggle with making loops, and maybe you don't like the tapering, and you can't get the loops to be the same size because of the tapering, this is another option. This is a good option. All right, so once you've got that one loop on there, we're going to go ahead and thread on a small seed bead, a 6mm gemstone, the Chinese crystal, another 6mm gemstone, and then another seed bead. Okay, so this is what you should have. Very simple. And then of course you're going to do your little kink, making sure that you leave a little bit of space so that when you bend you don't shatter those beads. Okay, so leave a little bit of space and then go ahead and give it a little kink, and then get your pliers and go ahead and form this loop now. All right, and then of course you want to make sure that both loops are facing the same direction, and I always use 2 pliers for that. And that's the first component. Okay, so you're going to do the rest of them just like this, and you're going to need a total of 8 for the necklace like I mentioned before, and then another 3 for the tassel, and it can be the same type or it can be different colors. So go ahead and do that and I'll meet you back. All right, so I'm back and I've already assembled my components and connected some of the chain to save time. The chain, by the way, when you're cutting your pieces, don't get too caught up on having them be perfect, because, you know, if your links are really tiny, then it's kind of a pain to have to count the links. I never count links. All I do is I thread them onto a piece of wire like this, and I just kind of eyeball it, make sure that they're the same length, and then I cut them accordingly. So I may measure the first one, and then all the other ones I just kind of do this method. I thread them onto wire and then just eyeball it and then cut them like that. And by the way, I know I said 1.5 inches, but you know, ultimately it's up to you how long you want the components to be, or how far apart you want them to be. It's completely up to you. Keep in mind that you've got the loop of the component as well. So if you want 1.5 inches between components, you want to keep that in mind, because you know, when you add these 2 loops up, that could be up to 1/2 inch. So keep that in mind when you're cutting your wire. And then simply, this is the easiest part of the whole project. All you're going to do is open up your loop and then take your wire and thread it right on there, just like that. Okay, very simple. It doesn't get any easier than that. You do, however, want to make sure that you close that loop really well. Okay, really, really well, because we don't want the chain to come out of that loop. So you want to make sure that it's completely closed. Okay, and then just keep on linking them just like I showed you. There's nothing difficult about this. Just keep on linking all of the components until you have all 8 components hooked up to the chains, just like this. Okay, all right, so go ahead and do that and I'll meet you back. All right, so I'm back, and as you can see, I've got all the components connected with the chain, and you do want to end with one piece of chain at one end, okay, because that's where the ring is going to go. But before we do that, we need to form the charm that's going to hang off the ring, okay? So for that, I think I'm going to go ahead and do a wrap loop. And so get your head pin, and this is going to be a little bit challenging because my head pins are very strong, and so it's very difficult to do wrap loops when they're very, very strong, but I'll do the best I can. And for this I'm just using some short round nose pliers that I have. So after you do your kink, go ahead and bend it around the top jaw, continue wrapping that around, okay? And so this is what you should have, all right? And then once you have that, you want to grab your favorite pair of flat nose pliers and then go ahead and form your couple of wraps. You don't need any more than that. A couple of wraps is good enough, okay? And then of course you do want to cut off the excess, and always tuck in any bits of wire that is sticking out, because we don't want that wire to be snagging anybody's clothing. All right, so this charm is going to go on the ring, and I'm going to use a 6mm jump ring to attach it to the 25mm ring. Okay, and by the way, this ring came in that Soft Flex mystery design kit as well, and you want to make sure that that jump ring is very well closed and there are no gaps. Okay, even though the ring is pretty thick, so I don't think you know, it would have to be a pretty big gap for this to fall off. Okay, so that's the charm that goes on the ring, and then all you got to do is attach this end of the necklace, the end that has the chain, to the ring. So for that, you can use another 6mm jump ring, or 5 would actually be okay too. Let me try 5. Sometimes, you know, it's not that attractive to see large jump rings depending on your design. So let's try 5 and see how that works out. So you want to attach the jump ring right to the link, the last link of that chain, and then attach the jump ring to the large ring. And the 5mm works just fine as well. So either 5 or 6 is okay. So now we have that attached, okay? And again, you want to make sure that it's very, very well closed. All right, so that part is done. And so now we're going to work on this end. And I already have my 3 components with a piece of chain attached to one of them. And as you can see, I did 2 the same, the blue and the yellow, and then I did one with a blue Chinese crystal in the middle. Okay, and that's going to go on this end. So the first thing we're going to do is attach the component that has the chain on it, because we are going to attach the rest of them to that chain. All right, so first of all, we attach that one with you know, you can either go right onto the loop or use a jump ring. It's up to you. I chose to use the loop because I want to leave a little bit more space for or freedom, I should say, freedom of movement for the other ones. So I'm going to attach my jump ring, this is a 4mm jump ring, onto that loop just like this. Okay, and then choose whichever one you want to connect. It can be the blue one, or the, you know, whichever one you want to connect to that. Now before you attach the next one, what you need to do is you need to see how it drapes, okay? Because we want them to drape evenly. Not evenly, but you want them spaced out you know, somewhat evenly. All right, so each one of these is going to have a charm from the bottom, so don't be too concerned about that. I'm going to go ahead and put this one in the middle here of this piece of chain. Okay, so again, you want to use a 4mm jump ring, 4mm or 5mm. It's completely up to you. And don't be too concerned about spacing. You can just eyeball this. It doesn't have to be perfect, okay? All right, so now that that's attached, as you can see, they're spaced out, you know, relatively evenly. Okay, so now all we got to do is attach the charms, and I made 3 charms just like this one using a head pin. All right, I made them ahead of time because I wanted to save some time on this video. So here are my 3, and these 2 are from the mix, the sunflower mix. This one is from my own stash. This is a lava rock. I think it's called a lava rock bead. Gold, okay? And all 3 have loops, simple loops on them, and all 3, obviously it's a head pin, okay? All right, and that's it. I mean, all we have to do now, very simply, is attach each one to the end of each one of these tassels, and then you're done. It couldn't be any simpler. It's a very, very simple project. The hardest part about this project is figuring out what color beads you're going to use and figuring out the length of the whole Lariat necklace. Okay, it's all personal preference. It's totally up to you how long you want the Lariat necklace to be, and how much space between components is completely up to you. But there it is. Very easy project. And of course you just thread the tassel through the ring and then position it where you want it on your neck. And that's about it, guys. It couldn't be any easier. And like I said, you know, if you don't have these beads, you can certainly do the same design using different beads, different colors. These tassels, the charms on the tassels are a little bit bigger, obviously, so you'll have to go searching for beads that are different and bigger. As you can see, these are flat. So if you don't subscribe to the Softflex company, or not subscribe, but if you've never bought one of their boxes, you know, you can always go out and look into your stash and see if you can find similar beads. These are flat ovals, okay, and this is a round 10mm bead. Whatever you use, you definitely want them to be a little bit bigger for the tassel, okay, and a little bit smaller for the necklace itself. But like I said earlier, there are no rules. It's completely up to you. All right, so let me go ahead and I'm going to put this one on and come back and model it for you. Well, here's the necklace. I just love this necklace, but you know the best part about this necklace? It is so easy to make. And so I hope that you enjoyed today's tutorial, and I hope you can go out and make your own designs using different colors, different beads. Just have fun with it. That's the most important thing. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.